it's been, I think, really cathartic for us to kind of explore the stories of our relatives and kind of put them on stage so other people can share them.
And what was it like actually writing these stories for you? Did you draw upon experiences that you had yourself, or was it from previous generations?
So the majority of the play was drawing on previous generations. So the play follows, for example, an older Irish gentleman who suffers abuse in the industrial schools in Ireland and then moves to London, which follows kind of the story of my grandmother. And then it also explores the way suicide can happen twice in the same family, which follows the story of my aunt and my uncle. So it was kind of inspired by that. And then I also drew on, I guess, my own experiences at university and those of sort of friends and other family members to kind of bring it all together.
And when you were doing the research for the play, were you speaking to family members to find out what happened? What was it like?
Yeah, I spoke in depth with my mother about it, because obviously it was her siblings who'd suffered that and her grandmother who'd gone through that trauma at a young age in orphanages. So that was, at first, it was quite tricky to kind of open up those boxes with her. But actually, I think it really brought us together to kind of learn more about what she'd been through, and then to put that on stage and bring those stories to life with sort of such tenderness and such love for the characters, I think really brought us closer to each other.
And what was it when you were finding out these stories? What was it that made you want to then make it into a play?
Well, for me, it's always been something that's been in our family and that we've kind of known about. I think the fact that if people take their own lives, it's really kind of often shied away. People feel uncomfortable talking about it a lot of the time. And so when Rachel wrote this play, I did a bit of research myself. And there's a study from the University of Pittsburgh that shows that you're 4 to 6 times more likely to take your own life if someone in your family has. And I thought that was a really kind of shocking statistic, because particularly in our family, once we'd lost one person to suicide, we thought we couldn't kind of comprehend why that would happen a second time. And so I felt that was a really, really important thing to get people talking about, which is what we want to do with this play and putting it on, is hopefully audiences will stick around and chat about it, or even go home and just chat more with a family member who you know might be going through something. Yeah, and just get people talking a bit more.
I think the taboo around talking about mental health is something that is getting better. We're perhaps not quite there yet. But do you think mental health within generations and within families, do you think that's talked about enough?
Not at all, really. I think particularly with older generations, because they didn't really have the vocabulary to discuss it, it often kind of got swept under the carpet. And I think now we're getting better at understanding that. We can kind of look to the past and try and have a bit more understanding about what went on then.
Yeah, and particularly with our family. So we grew up thinking that our aunt died of a heart attack. And it was only quite a bit later in life that we found out what the real reason was. And I think that's because, particularly for older generations, there's a lot of shame and stigma around admitting that someone's taken their own life. And obviously that's changing now, which is great, and people are starting to be more open about it. But I think if that comes with your family and they're very cautious about talking about it, and even within families don't want to be open about it, that can have an impact on yourself as well. And it definitely kind of changed how I thought about suicide from quite an early age too.
And how is it that the Catholic, what's the Catholic connection within this play?
So the Catholic connection comes from the character of Eamon, who's raised at first in a Catholic orphanage in Ireland. And I think in particular, the shame and guilt that's connected with suicide in the Catholic Church is really huge for him, as it was in our own family, because our family they're Irish Catholics. And to lose a child to suicide was, of course, it's considered very shameful, and I think that really added to the stigma around it. So that's one thing we really wanted to bring out in the play.